are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Podcast. I'm Dylan, everybody on Twitter. Here to talk to you today, latest Auburn athletics news, as Auburn fails to get the win over Vanderbilt, but I don't think anyone's really in a disappointing belief about how the team looked. I mean, the defense looked bad, but overall, I think that most people are impressed with how improved the offense looked. So that kind of overshadows the fact that Vanderbilt got the win. This was a much improved team than what we have seen over the past few weeks offensively. And again, I guess it does suck really that this was the worst game of the season for the defense. Right when the offense figures it all out, the defense can't get it done. But regardless, I mean, there's a lot of good to get out of this game. I mean, in just 5 days of practice, DJ Durkin was able to kind of get this team back feeling like a competitor, feeling like a team that can, take down the Giants, take down the best teams that they face. And of course, I mean, you're not going to, Rome wasn't built in a day kind of thing. And this team can find ways to build off of what was a very impressive performance from the offense. You just got to fix some things defensively. And of course, Vanderbilt's a very hard team to defend. I think that's something that every team has suffered with, is finding ways to stop Diego Pavia and this Tim Beck offense, which has been, on a roll all season long. It was going to be an uphill battle trying to shut down Pavia throughout the run game and the passing game alike. I mean, even on the game itself, I mean, he had, if it loads, 337 yards passing with 3 touchdowns, as well as 112 yards on the ground as well. So yeah, very, very tough man to stop, especially whenever he's the most experienced on the field at any given time. But overall, I mean, you got to take your hats off for the offense here. I mean, Ashton Daniels, 31 of 44, 353 yards passing, 70% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns through the air, as well as 18 carries, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground as well. Jeremiah Cobb also throwing up another 100-yard game himself, getting so very close to hitting that 1,000 mark on the year. But, of course, storyline of the game are these Auburn receivers. Eric Singleton, 11 catches, another big game for him, 102 yards and a touchdown. And, oh, my Lord, Cam Coleman, 10 catches, 143 yards, and a touchdown, and what was a miraculous touchdown. One of the best catches I've ever – he had a couple of catches that are up there on my list of best catches I've ever seen. I mean, getting his foot down fully inbounds for a catch, and then that no-looker – of a catch he did in the end zone, and of course mossing someone for the 2-point conversion with only one hand. Definitely someone you got to keep the other teams away from, because even DJ Durkin mentioned that people are reaching out to Auburn players, which is illegal. It is very illegal. So if I was NCAA, I'd be reaching out to those people and taking away games, because Cam Coleman should be a forever Auburn Tiger, if you ask me. I mean, one more season ain't gonna hurt him. He's only going to get even better. But, of course, now he's got a quarterback who can get the ball to him. But, again, overall, I mean, this offense looked great. This is the exact Auburn offense that we were expecting to see from game one. It is the balanced attack, the understanding that we have a very good running back in Jeremiah Cobb, understanding that we have a wide selection of all American caliber receivers on the team. And I mean, Cam Coleman's up to 600 yards on the season. He would have to have 2 200-yard games, or a couple 150-yard games plus a bowl game that Robert has to win out for that to get 1,000 yards. But this is a very quick turnaround offensively. I think Derrick Nix deserves a lot of credit for what he was able to do with his offense. And again, I think that Durkin, he mentioned it. I mean, it's a struggle to really coach the defense like you have been, while also being the every coach. You focus so much throughout the week on improving your defense that when it comes down to it, it's a struggle to really make sure you're detail oriented with the defense, while also trying to make sure the offense is trying to get right. And again, that was evident. But Durkin really was emotional about this loss too. He understands exactly what went wrong. I think he even made a dig at Hugh Freeze in the presser, just saying how the fans don't want it to be close; they want to win, kind of statement. Which again, is hilarious. I think he's the second coach to make a joke about that. Of course, Stephen Pearl being the first one. But again, overall, I mean, it was not a bad loss in the sense of the other words. I would much rather lose in a shootout than lose in a 10-3 ball game. And again, I mean, this is another 1 score loss that Auburn could have overcome had even the defense got like one extra stop, or they were able to keep with it down the field. And again, this was a different Vanderbilt than what people have been seeing throughout the season. I mean, this was not a methodical Vanderbilt team. They decided, Auburn's defense is going to be ready for this. So, what we're going to do, we're going to change it up. And Auburn was not ready for it. They were not ready for this down the field passing attack from Junior Sherrill and Richardson, and was not ready for that. And of course, Eli Stowers, Auburn has struggled all year long when it comes to good tight ends. I mean, we saw that in week 1 versus Baylor, where a big physical, fast tight end is able to do numbers against Auburn's defense. And, it's been far and between where they've seen a tight end. So, that's not something they've been, really practicing against all season long. So, again, I'm not trying to give too many excuses for the defense. I mean, it was a very bad defensive game. And, again, an inexcusable blemish on what has been a phenomenal season. But even then, every blind squirrel finds a nut, and, every good defense has their bad day. So this was definitely the day that it happened, and an absolutely terrible time to do it. Auburn losing in overtime, of course. But yeah, I think if I'm going to go into one thing here, I mean, I've talked about the defensive meltdown already. I mean, the offensive line did not look improved whatsoever. It truly has been a horrific season for this offensive line. I mean, a holding call, getting called against Auburn, false start penalty. Xavier Chaplin, I think he's getting close to. He had a couple of them, if I'm not mistaken. He did. He had a couple of false starts. Definitely has to be a record of some point. Xavier Miller had himself a pretty meh day, had a couple of false starts on him as well. Again, penalties. 4 on the defense, 8 on the offense. And again, they just kill drives. There were a couple of drives in the game where Auburn did not score because of the penalties taken in the back. There was a touchdown that could have been had, but Xavier Miller had a holding call against him, and he gets called back, and Auburn ends up taking the, taking the 3, and that 4 extra points would win you the game in regulation. Again, discipline has been a talking point about this team all year long. And again, 5 days is not going to be enough to really fix the overlying issues wrong with this team. You're not going to fix the penalties in a week. That's something that we will be talking about in the offseason about what the next head coach or whoever the next head coach may be, if it's DJ Durkin, if it's John Summerall, if it's who even knows over there in California, just someone random. It's going to be a talking point of that. It's like, can this team get disciplined over the offseason? Can this team limit their penalties? Can this team not end drives early because their offense got them behind the sticks early? So it's going to be a talking point throughout the offseason. It's not going to be something that's going to be fixed within a week. I mean, even if it does get fixed, I mean, we're looking at Mercer or we're looking at Alabama before we're talking about a much improved, disciplined Auburn football team. But again, I think overall, I mean, you can't leave this game upset about how the team looked. I mean, who's to say what this team looked like if he would have kept Hugh Freeze another week? And again, I understand that there was some speculation that they did not want to get rid of Hugh Freeze this early, trying to get the buyout to be a little cheaper. But, got to pay for he has to pay for the golf course at some point. Got to pay off that tab. But of course, it was time, and really it shows that it was someone was holding Auburn back, and it definitely was the play calling of Hugh Freeze. Don't know how Derrick Nix didn't get more of the play calling duties early in the season. I think he had first down, if I'm not mistaken, and then it was Hugh Freeze for second down. Then it was Ken Austin for third down. Man, I don't know. I think this game proves that 3 play callers is stupid. I think this game shows that 2 play callers are stupid. If it's more than one, it's stupid. You are handicapping yourself by making sure that your offense does not get any momentum by having more play callers. 1 play caller fixes that. Derrick Nix, in his first game ever play calling, has himself an absolute day. I think it was Auburn had a quarter where they put up 12 first downs. I think that was the second quarter. And it was like that first time getting 12 first downs in a quarter or a second quarter, I think, since the national championship in 2010. This is Auburn's first game since the 2004 SEC championship, where they've had a 300-yard passer, a 100-yard rusher, and a 100-yard receiver, and they had 2 of those this game. So, I mean, it's a great starting point offensively. I mean, you didn't have any issues special teams wise. 3 for 3 on the field on field goals. Hudson Cock only had 3 punts, which he averaged 42 yards on all of those. Had one that went inside the 20. And again, no muffed punts from the Tigers. So overall, man, the bad part was just the defense. If the defense had some of them issues fixed, then we're probably on here right now talking about an Auburn win, and that feels like a sign of optimism to come. I had more fun watching this Auburn game than I have had since, I want to say, that Baylor game. Because I mean, even the Ball State and South Alabama game, as good as Auburn looked at times, I mean, there were signs that there's something hiding in the dark against this Auburn offense. And again, this was the first game in a while where I've been emotionally impacted by a loss, in the terms of not angry out of my mind, but actually like heartbroken. Just because every game since Oklahoma has felt that way. It's just been anger at why the offense is as bad as it is. Why do we have the Freeze 5 out here? Why do we have the highest rated quarterback room of all time and nothing's getting done offensively? So again, this is an optimistic look of this team. And this is the first time in a while I've been able to come on this live stream and optimistically talk about an Auburn offense. Again, Mercer is going to be a win. I mean, it's going to be almost a waste of a preview show to talk about the Mercer game. But again, stranger things have happened, but I'm not going to try to manifest anything, knock on wood. I think overall Auburn, found life. And one way to the only outlook I can really give for Auburn right now is, of course, I don't think right now Durkin is my head coaching candidate. And it's not because I don't think he can do it. I think that he is best fit as a defensive coordinator. And, you find a head coach that can manage the whole team and give the keys to the defense to Durkin and give the keys to the offense to the coordinator, and you sit there and you just manage. I think Durkin isn't much of a manager. He is so in tune to the details that he can't give 50% to the defense and the defense have 100% production on the field. I think it's a 100-100 thing for the defense. Because, I mean, he mentioned that he wanted to fix the offense. He mentioned that the offense had issues all season long, and he wanted to stand up and fix them and try to, help this team get right mentally and physically on the field. But I think it's severely impacted how good this defense was supposed to look. And again, there were some moments where the defense did show out. I mean, they had stops. They they forced a fumble. They late in the game, Bryce Diaz had himself a tackle and really helped Auburn secure a chance to win the game and take it to overtime. And again, that was a very mismanaged end of the game, which again, I'm not going to fret too much. I do have my issues. Again, the offensive line, again, will always be an issue for me. Xavier Chaplin is terrible when it comes to, I heard so many things about that stadium, and how it was filled to the brim with Auburn fans. You know, Nashville is Auburn North. Everyone knows that. People were saying how quiet that stadium was. And Xavier Chaplin still commits 2 false starts. And Xavier Miller, I mean, he has a lot of potential, man. He is so tall and big. But, dude, couple of penalties there to kind of ruin drives. You took points off the board. You had, like, 4th and goal on the 2. And definitely could have got in and helped secure another touchdown. But you call a holding call, pushes Auburn back, and then they can't get back in the end zone. So those two, disappointing year. I mean, Mason Murphy, didn't hear me complain about him too much throughout the game because he was at center. So I'm not going to be too upset about that. He was a terrible tackle. I got to be honest with you. Terrible tackle. And, of course, dude, I'm going to throw a lot of shade at Preston Howard, dude. He is, and I don't think I'm being facetious saying this, I think he is one of the worst players I have ever watched play in an Auburn uniform, and he gets starting minutes. You cannot have Preston Howard in there in crunch time. You cannot have Preston Howard in there when you need a field goal, when you need to get in the field goal range. He has proven game in and game out that when it comes down to it, he cannot make the catches needed to get Auburn yards, to get Auburn a first down, to get Auburn in territory to score. He has been awful all season long. And again, I tweeted out yesterday, and I named every single tight end on the roster because you can't tell me none of them walk-ons can go out there and catch a pass. You can't tell me that. I refuse to believe that not a single one of those walk-ons can go out there and catch a dang ball. Because Preston Howard can't. He's proven to me he can't. He has proven that he is an unreliable target, and he gets at least 2 or 3 a game. Those are passes that should be going to Cam Coleman. Those are passes that should be going to Eric Singleton. Passes going to Perry, to Malcolm, to Jeremiah, to Ryan Gee, dude. Tate Johnson. Put Tate Johnson out there. At least he can block. Preston Howard can't do that. He is the highest potential tight end we have brought in here in a while who has never shown any sign that he can live up to the potential talent that he was recruited here to give out. I cannot fathom seeing him on the field. It brings me disgust whenever I watch him go out there on the field because he has costed Auburn a couple of games now. Just the constant drops, dude. You can't have that. And I don't know how it's not been said, but I mean, I've already stated that I don't think Jake Thornton should be returned to the staff. Like, I'm looking at the offensive staff, and right now, Derrick Nix is on my good side because he had a great game. Marcus Davis is on my good side, and he will forever be over there. Everyone else can get on and get. Ben Algamawa, the tight ends have been awful. I don't think he can. I don't think he has really done a good job of coaching these tight ends. Again, Jake Thornton, this offensive line has been undisciplined and has been awful. They're giving up sacks left and right. I haven't even begun to even look at how many sacks Auburn had to deal with this game. I got to go back and see. I think it might have been 2 or 3. If I can pull it up, 2. Yeah, 2. But again, that comes from Ashton Daniels doing most of that. You know, every time that Auburn almost got sacked, Ashton Daniels made a play with the ball. He either got the ball out or he ran it. Or it was either completion or he threw it out of bounds. And again, those are the things I want to see from a quarterback who is talented. And Jackson Arnold would have got like 8 sacks this game. I will put money on that. If you ran this game back and put Jackson Arnold in there, Auburn loses by 45 points because Jackson Arnold gets sacked 8 times. And again, things like that. But that just proves to me how good of a quarterback Ashton Daniels really was. And again, it brings back the whole concept of, did you even give him a chance in the offseason? Did you even look his way? Or was that NIL check towards Jackson Arnold just too enticing that you couldn't really give up the job to anyone else? And I understand Ashton Daniels didn't get here till the summer. I understand that. Jackson was here throughout the spring. You only had Jackson and Deuce, and you pull out your Ashton Daniels late in the season, and all of a sudden, where the heck has this guy been? we saw Ashton Daniels go in versus Arkansas, and he managed the game extraordinarily well. Of course, didn't score, but the offense was playing around him. They were not playing for Jackson Arnold. And in Kentucky happens, and your play calling is so awful that you try to blame it on Ashton Daniels. You put your scapegoat out there and Jackson Arnold, and he is even worse. And then you finally realize, oh, well, I probably should win this game if I don't want to get fired. So then you put Ashton Daniels back out there. Malpractice. The buyout check should go into student tuition. NIL, somewhere, that buyout check should not be going towards Hugh Freeze. I think what we saw is a plausible enough evidence that it was with cause, because that offense was so much more improved. But again, there are holes that need to be fixed, and that being, don't let Preston Howard back on the field. Don't do it. Unless he's like an extra blocker, and I mean extra blocker, not the main blocker. Put him behind Tate Johnson. Let Tate Johnson run it. And again, it's so annoying, dude. I can't stand it. I love tight ends. Tight ends are my favorite position. Most of my favorite players are tight ends. Philip Wilson-Kirkins, CJ Uzama. I'm a Panthers fan. Greg Olson. But dude, I can't stand Preston Howard. He makes me irate watching him try to catch a football. And again, if he stays throughout the offseason and he gets better, I'll retract my statement. But this year, dude, you've been awful. You have been awful this year. And again, I would, if I was Durkin or Algamawa and I want to keep my job, I would make sure that Preston Howard is at the machine, and he is catching 100 passes a day. He has to start practice with 50 and practice with 50 consecutive. Can't drop a single one of them. Because, dude, what are you doing out there if it's not catching the football? And again, Auburn might have been a field. Again, it would still have been a long field goal. It would have been long enough to, for you to pull something in your leg, clenching so hard about it. But regardless, I mean, it would have been a lot more manageable. At least like a Connor Gibbs could have at least booted the ball that far, and it at least would have went out of bounds. But dude, it's ridiculous that was even considered a play in that moment of the game. And I just can't, man. I can't fathom seeing Preston Howard back another year. I think he's one of those players that I think he had a bad enough year to where he'll probably transfer to a lower tier school alongside a couple of other players like Jackson Arnold. I think you're going to see a lot of those guys probably leave after the season ends. It'll suck whenever Ashton Daniels has to go. I heard this before, and I saw a comment about it. I don't think it's fathomable to let Ashton Daniels redshirt this season, because you want to keep Deuce. And him being the quarterback of the future, no matter what head coach recruited him, Deuce Knight has a lot of talent. And if you compare him with a very good offensive coordinator and a very good quarterback developer, not a self-proclaimed one, but a proven one, Deuce is going to turn into something great. He really is. And again, I want Ashton to have a solid end of the year. I think he will. But I think you got to let Ashton go in these next two games. These games are going to be so vital in making sure that you have a semblance of consistency going into the Iron Bowl. And I mean, one game, this Mercer game. Just trying to make sure you have your ducks in a row. Again, the Iron Bowl gets so much more important when you beat Mercer. You get 5 and 6, and you have a chance right there to get into a bowl eligibility. All you got to do is beat Alabama. And something about this Auburn team makes it feel like, maybe, but I'm cautiously optimistic, because again, this is the Auburn team that, the defense continues to play like they have been throughout the early parts of the season, and just not counting the Vanderbilt game. And the offense starts showing up. I mean, something crazy can happen in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Again, it's haunted. It's haunted. Yeah, whether it's hurting Auburn or hurting the other team, that stadium is haunted. But, I'm not really for just kind of making sure Ashton Daniels stays here another year. I think that, it works out better for him to kind of go out on top like this. He's already working on securing himself as an all-time legend because he's going to be the ultimate what if storyline for Auburn going forward. It was always like, what if Bo Nix didn't transfer to Oregon? What if, John Franklin III worked out? What if Kerryon Johnson got hurt in the Iron Bowl in 2017? What if Ashton Daniels started since Baylor? What does his offense look like at that point? Because I've always stated that I thought Ashton Daniels deserved his shot. And again, I hyped up Jackson Arnold just as much as anyone else during that Baylor game. But I mean, there were holes in his game from the get-go that we've talked about. Again, I've always said that Ashton Daniels should at least get a look. And to get to this point of the season with now 2 games left and watching him throw for 350 yards, which is over a fourth of what Jackson Arnold got in all of the games he started in and played in. It hurts my heart a little bit for him. I can't lie. He truly is a gamer in every sense of the word. Get y'all's comments real quick. I'll go to any last minute thoughts before I give the grades and the player of the game. Teresa at the top, War Eagle and Meep. War Eagle and Meep back. Brian G agreed, Dylan, this was better than last week. Just got to keep the foot on the pedal until the season is over. Absolutely agree. Ashton and Cam and Eric had a great game, and you put Cobb in there as well. Another 100-yard game for him. Huge shout out to him. The Deuce getting the nod. I don't think that's plausible. I think you get Deuce snaps. I will say, I think you get Deuce snaps. I don't think you get a Deuce start. I just don't want to see Jackson Arnold out there. Do to Jackson Arnold what Hugh Freeze did to Ashton Daniels against Ball State. Do not put Jackson Arnold out there. Put Deuce in. Let Deuce kind of end off his season as a freshman off right and let him get some actual yardage. Because those 2 fumbles are going to weigh heavy on his stat line this season. 353 passing yards from Ashton was the best game of the season. Absolutely. And again, this Cam Coleman catches. Dang, the kid is special. Rare to come by. Glad he's our receiver at Auburn. Again, on to Victor's got the work cut out for him because, again, you got to empty the bank to keep Cam Coleman. Dude's already a legend. Go on and scoot down a little bit so we can go ahead and get ready to retire 8 in a couple of years for Cam Coleman. Definitely think he's going to earn that regard. Has been him since he got here. But yeah, absolute legend of the game in the making. We got 3 weeks to figure it out before the Bummer game. I absolutely agree. Can't overlook Mercer either. I'm not going to – I've made the jokes before. Mercer's not going to beat Auburn. It's not going to happen. Nashville's only 3 hours away from Birmingham and less than 2 hours away from Huntsville. Auburn always travels well for away games at Vandy. Again, it's Auburn North. It's always been called Auburn North. Brendan Frazier and Tate Johnson could be out there. Absolutely agree. 2 sacks better than 7 or 10. Absolutely agree. Madison AU's chief, the moment it's too big for Preston Howard right now. He likely practices well. Agree. O-line coach and tight ends coach need to go. Yeah. Jake Thornton, he might be a good recruiter, but dude, he has not done well coaching this offense since he's been here. I think he's been here for 3 years, and the O-line has done nothing but regress. So tight ends as well. I would say Valdo had a great first year, regressed second year, and then this year's tight ends have been awful. But you haven't seen a lot of those guys this season. Ryan Gee hasn't really got on the field all that much, but even though he's a blocking tight end for the most part. But overall, I do think we need to see a lot more of the other guys out there. Jackson holds onto the ball too long. Ashton is like, nah, bro. He's going to sling it out no matter what. Absolutely agree. And Tate Johnson was a former lineman. Brandon is tall enough to bulldoze any secondary and red zone situations. I think Brendan Frazier is still dealing with an injury, but again, we see a lot of Tate Johnson out there whenever Auburn runs the ball, and that kind of comes into his game as a former offensive lineman. Of course, Tate Johnson, a former Callaway High School graduate, as Tank Bigsby. And then Brian, you go back with it. Fair enough for the Ashton Daniels comment. Again, who do you think will be the head coach after the Iron Bowl? I don't think it's going to be DJ Durkin. I think with John Cohen, should do, or at least if I was John Cohen and I had that call to make, I am going to be talking to head coaches that are proven at program building and proven at, kind of making sure they're getting the most other players. So Alex Golish would be one of my guys. John Summerall would be another one of those guys. I would talk to them and ask them, like, hey, we want you to be the head coach for Auburn University, but we have a stipulation. We want to keep DJ Durkin as defensive coordinator because of what he has done this season. If we hire you as the head coach, will you retain Durkin going forward? And whoever says yes first to that question is the person you give the dotted line to sign on to. Because, again, I don't think it'd be smart for Auburn to lose Durkin. Those players want to play for him like nobody's business. We just saw how this team was able to play behind him for this game in his first head coaching game as an Auburn Tiger. I don't think it's going to be Durkin as the head coach. Unless he beats Alabama, then a whole other story to kind of come up with. But again, I think you talk to Summerall. I think you talk to Golish. I think you talk to proven coaches that are building programs up. I mean, Drinkwitz could be a guy. But again, the stipulation you got to give is we want to keep Durkin as the defensive coordinator. Are you willing to do that? And again, if they're a proven winner and a proven program builder and, they can light the fire on any player on their roster and they're willing to take Durkin, you sign them a check and tell them to be here on Monday. That's what you do. So, again, I think that, again, Auburn proved that if you can build a program, if you can get these players to play for you and with all their heart, and then you'll win games at Auburn. You'll win championships at Auburn. Auburn is a program capable of doing that. Again, I think whenever you look at the enticing jobs available, I don't think Auburn is number one. I think LSU has the facilities and the background and everything, but again, Auburn has matching background to that. But I think LSU is number one on the list. Auburn, I would give number two, right in front of Penn State and Florida. And again, I think Florida State eventually will be on that list. But Auburn is a very enticing job. But again, what I would do if I'm John Cohen is, talk to the team. It's like give them the guys you're wanting to interview and want to hire. That way, when the season ends, you can look at them and like, hey, we're going to get this guy. Come in and talk to him. Come in and meet him. Talk to him about what his offensive outlook is, and really get a feel for, get a feel for the coach before you announce if you want to enter the portal or not. And again, tell it to Cam Coleman. Again, I don't want to even fathom thinking about the possibility of Cam Coleman transferring. I think he loves Auburn a lot. But again, in this era of college football, money talks. And if that's the case, on to victory. The ball is in your court for that. But again, I think the offensive players that you want to build with over the next season, because again, Auburn should always have been a team where it's a reload instead of a rebuild. And again, these past 5 years of head coaches have kind of demolished the outlook of Auburn against the greater college football atmosphere. Again, you can win at Auburn. You can definitely win at Auburn. But I think Summerall and Golish are like my 1A and 1B picks. Just because they can make a 3-star team play like a 5-star team. They are able to build programs up. Players want to play for them. They're high energy. They're gonna have your team fighting tooth and nail to come out on top. And again, some of them games that they play aren't even tooth and nail. We're better than you, and we're gonna prove we're better than you, and see you when the clock hits 0, and just demolish the other team. Keldrick said on the interview after the game that Coach Durkin brought life to the table. That was evident out of everyone. Every player kind of said that going into the game anyways, which again, I retained that. I think Durkin needs to stay on staff. I just don't know how I feel about him as head coach, given the fact that he is a more detailed oriented guy. I think he can do it. And again, if you beat Alabama, I'll hand him the check myself, not from my bank account, but from Auburn's bank account. But I will happily allow him to be the head coach at Auburn next season. Again, because anything that helps with player retention, trying to keep those players out of the portal early. Coworker said told me he's a Bama fan, and he said he would like to see Dabo as next head coach at Auburn. Tell your coworker that Dylan from College Loop said shut up. I do not. Dabo Swinney brings chills down my spine at the very thought of him coaching my football team. He is too behind the times for me. He does not recruit the portal. He tries to just do his way or the highway. And again, it feels a lot like a Hugh Freeze with a championship ring. And I can't fathom it right now. I would never want Dabo Swinney as the head coach of the Auburn Tigers. Just kidding. He's just in his own way, and man, he has become very unlikable over the past few years. So yeah, can't do Dabo Swinney. Can't do it. Absolutely cannot do it. We're gonna go ahead and go over my players of the game and my grades, and we'll get up out of here. So starting off with we'll do grades first because that's how it's labeled. Offensive grade. Offense gets an A+, 38 points. Again, this could have, A++++. You come out from a week past scoring 3 points against Kentucky. You put up 38 points against a top 25 team. You got the 100 and you got bonus points for it. You showed out and you showed up and you look great. You broke records, not records, but you broke streaks. First time having a 300-yard pass or 100-yard rusher and 100-yard receiver in the same game since the 2004 SEC championship. You had 12 first downs in the second quarter, which hasn't happened since the 2010 national championship. You're playing like a championship team in week 11, which is annoying. But yeah, you get the A+. Defense, you did some good things, but you didn't get enough to pass. I'm gonna give you a D. Yeah, you just had to make a couple of stops late in the game. It didn't happen. A couple of coverages were busted. There was that one where that guy was just wide open, no one within 20 yards of him, and just kind of waltzed in for a touchdown. Could not figure out how to tackle Pavia, which again, no one really has, but not a failing grade, but not a high passing grade either. So you get that you'll get a D from me. Special teams grade gets an A. 3 for 3 field goals. Hard to beat that. Punting wise, 42 yards averaging for a punt. They're on just 3 punts. No drop punts, so I can't be upset about that. But didn't really get a chance to return anything either. So just going to go with the simple A. Hey, coaching grade gets a B+. You lit a fire under this team, and it showed. But again, the defense just didn't play up to par, so it kind of hurts your grade a little bit. But just the offense carried. That's the first time in a while I've been able to say the offense carried anything for Auburn. Offensive player of the week. Ashton Daniels is on this. It should have been, or not should have been, but is in consideration. Jeremiah Cobb is in consideration. Erickson will just be in consideration. But, dude, those catches by Cam Coleman were electric. Proven time and time again that he is a top 2 receiver in college football. Arguably not even isn't number 2 on that list. It's him and Jeremiah Smith are 1A, 1B. And there's a giant gap before you get to the next guy, which is probably Mario Craver at Texas A&M, which also could have been a Tiger, which hurts a little bit. But, yeah, Cam Coleman, phenomenal day. Absolutely electric day from Cam Coleman. Please do not leave Auburn ever. 5 years of eligibility whenever you graduate to stay at Auburn forever. Sue the NCAA for extra years of eligibility, as Pavia might do in late November. Defensive player of the week. Hard to really give it out to a singular person. I'm going to go with Xavier Atkins just because it led him in tackles. Had half a sack out of the one whole sack Auburn had. 1.5 tackles for losses. Could have won with a couple of guys for this one. And Morris Williams had the other half sack and a half tackle for a loss. Dallas Walker forced that fumble. Keldrick Falk recovered that fumble. Only had 1 tackle, but again, one thing I did not mention in this game was one reason the defense kind of struggled with getting pressure on Pavia. SEC officiating on Twitter. Dude, those holding calls are egregious. Every time they zoomed in on a play of Pavia running, you'll see an Auburn player with a Vanderbilt player having a fistful of his jersey, pulling him back, and never got called. I don't think how many penalties Vanderbilt. I can't even remember how many penalties Vanderbilt had. It did not feel like a lot. They were not calling penalties on Vanderbilt. They had 3, 2 of which were on the offense. One was a false start. And where was this at? The first quarter, and then a delay game at the start of the game. A lot of false start penalties went uncalled, or a lot of holding calls did not get called in this game. Absolutely egregious, and another terrible game from the SEC, might I add. Got to make those calls when they're there. But that's going to do it for the College League Podcast. I thank everyone who had tuned in live and commented. And leave your thoughts on this game in the comment section below. Of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe as well, helping us get to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. We're already on the way there, just getting past 1,000 not too long ago. Make sure to follow us on social media platforms. There's Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works of the College Loop. Follow me on Twitter at @YBulletTang. Follow me on Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, which is just my name, DYLNLARCK. And of course, again, subscribe to us right here on the YouTube channel, helping us get to 2,000 subscribers. Basketball content coming soon, just because football has been so prevalent right now. But again, we'll be talking about basketball a fair amount getting into this next week, because I think Houston is coming up either this week or early next week. So big game for Auburn basketball going forward. So that being said, thanks for listening to the College League Podcast yet again. And as always, War Eagle.